Hello everybody, welcome yet again into another video covering the cosmology of the game named ULTRAKILL. Before anything though, I would like to quickly apologize for my very consistent upload schedule. I was rather busy with classes and school and stuff, and ever since I posted that second video of cosmology, I really found nothing else to do. Maybe do a couple calcs here and there and let them hang on the community post. But with the recently out Layer of Fraud number 8, some juicy upgrades came out and some new characters came out, and I would like to cover them. And how does it exactly affect the scaling of ULTRAKILL, which, spoiler, gets it very high. Alright, so without nothing else to address, enjoy the video. Alright, I'm gonna start with a very simple question. What is space? Like, what exactly is space? Well, space is a three-dimensional continuum containing positions and directions. In classical physics, physical space is often put in three linear dimensions, and modern physics usually pair it with time, a one-dimensional continuum, creating a boundless four-dimensional continuum known as the spacing continuum. The concept of space considered is of fundamental importance to understanding the physical universe. However, there exists geometries that are non-Euclidean, in which spacing is considered as curved rather than flat, as in the Euclidean space. Such as in Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, space around gravitational fields deviates from Euclidean space. Now that we know the very simple definition of space, I'm going to ask yet another question. Is space in hell three-dimensional at all? And space in hell is described as dreamlike, where things don't really connect physically. They're more like general vague ideas of space, which is like when memories or ideas aren't really clean. Basically, space that is filled with ideas or emotions that very much represent the sins that each layer embody, aka greed embodies, well, the sin of greed, violence, the sin of violence, and so and so. And this can be too backed up by the very fact that Hakira says the layers too aren't really physical, but they're kind of abstract ideas. So this very much just says the layers represent and embody the thing they work with, as they exceed physicality in a sense. And Hakira has stated at least twice that the laws of physics on hell don't really work at all. Like, hell doesn't exactly abide the laws of physics in the space from our world, aka the three-dimensional world. Now, abide is accept or obey a decision or rule, which in this case means the laws of physics and three-dimensional space. Because hell does not abide by such things, hell doesn't really work within conventional laws of physics nor conventional three-dimensional space, but it could work on alternate physics. Alright, but what about space? If hell doesn't really work within conventional space and rather has to work with alternative spaces, is space in hell truly, actually three-dimensional? Well, let's see about that. Now, within Hakira's statements, he firstly states that space in hell can be interpreted as a stream of consciousness where things change without really changing. There is also another segment where he says that things do not occupy space and traversal has no consistency. So stuff like end up or next to don't really work in hell. Now that will come useful later. Now with the third statement that says that the way space in hell works where things are stream of consciousness and stuff can be at multiple places at once at the same time without any type of consistency. Now, a universe by obvious reasons cannot be at multiple places at the same time. Even if a universe does not really hold a fixated point within space as it expands, it is alien to its nature of being at so many locations at the same time, which can be explained by saying it is a quantum superposition, which states that when particles are at multiple states at the same time, they can only be put at a single state when they are observed. Think that, funny enough, can be applied to hell, a space where things warp and move as they exist in so many places at the same time, yet they never really change, which already signs that space in hell just can't be three-dimensional. Space in hell has travel without consistency, always warps and changes without truly changing, something no 3D construct can really do so far, proven, and to act the fact that hell isn't non-Euclidean, really, which just makes the question linger even more. We can again see the Hakita states of the layers warp and change, forcing us to be unable to escape, as if they were to be physical, with some effort they would manage to escape. Yet they don't. And now that we know that space in hell really can't be three-dimensional as it shows properties of no possible three-dimensional space, alright, hooray, we get this. But can this be shown? Can it be shown the very fact that space in hell defies any three-dimensional properties? Can this actually be shown? Well, about that. As you all see, within the nature of fraud, spaces came to change in the sense that they defy geometrical and topological laws, alongside being unbound by physical laws, and spaces being set by depths as impossible spaces, further proving the very fact that space in hell isn't really three-dimensional. So we basically know, and I have yet again confirmed the very fact that space in hell isn't three-dimensional at all. It doesn't belong in the three-dimensional properties. It's not just non-Euclidean geometry. So we know this all, right? But can ULTRAKILL actually, like, let's say, get higher than, for example, universal plus, low multiversal, to even above low complex multiversal? Like, do we actually have a piece of evidence that can actually get ULTRAKILL higher? Yes, after a lot of time, after a lot of promises, I can finally talk about the disintegration loop 8-3 secret hell book. It's just high universal plus, alright? It's just high universal. Alright. Let me explain myself. Let me explain why from suddenly just being low multiversal, we suddenly have such a jump into the universal ranges. Alright, let me explain. Within the book, we get not just the context of Hell's view on how humanity, screwed themselves over with war and all the stuff, but we also get its own wording of how it sees reality, or how it sees us, and how hell itself, the being that managed to surpass God, views us humans. Our mind constrained by the space time continuum and all of that. It describes that. Firstly, hell says that our mind, the spatiotemporal mind, can conceptualize reality, that we see, and we put reality only in things that are binary or opposites. Yes or no, you are or you aren't. The point that Hale is trying to make here is that we humans have our minds locked by the logic that we know, the classic logic, the three laws of thought, the law of excluded middle, the law of non-contradiction, and the law of identity. These same laws that govern through all physical, dimensional, and mathematical frameworks. Everything here is but actually a limitation of what really goes on. That is the point Hell basically wants to make here. Which basically is just the first paragraph saying that our view of reality is pretty much limited. Now comes the other part, which is when Hell says that the eye of Logos, which means logic in Greek, that the eye of Logos sees only a colorless existence in a mana-potential world, its abstractions a trade of shadeless ones and zeros rearranged ad nihilum. Ad nihilum meaning into nothing. The point that Hell is trying to make here is that even with our sense of logic, even with all the frameworks we have done, we actually end up seeing reality only in a single potential way. A bunch of shadeless ones and zeros. Hell can just do whatever it wants with, and Hell just considers this all a single boring charade. Now comes the other part, which is Phaedonic dialogues, simple shadows on a cave wall. What do this mean? What do these two things mean? Firstly, Phaedonic dialogues. This is basically a reference to Plato's Phaedo, which are just a bunch of dialogues, basically treating the immortality of the soul and the nature of the afterlife. Then is the other part, simple shadows on a cave wall. Now this part is actually a reference to the famous allegory of the cave. Now, what is this analogy about? This analogy is basically people mistaking the shadows, aka the reality that they are presented with, as the true reality. Whereas this would be wrong, as there exist other higher realities such as shown, natural science, deductive mathematics, geometry, and the theory of forms. Now the point that Hell is trying to make here is that Hell basically puts itself way above the shadows. So then comes the other part, which is no. There are 39 states of existence: post-finity, metatemporality, and extra-causality. So Hell says that there are about 39 different planes of existence that exist as higher realities. For example, we would have post-finity, which is basically being just beyond a bunch of mathematical systems, and I believe transfinite numbers. We have metatemporality, which is being beyond the linear progression of time, past, present, and future, and extra causality, which basically means beyond cause and effect. The point that Hell is trying to make here is that there is a hierarchy of planes of existence that form a qualitative transcendence over the last, which basically put the three-dimensional or the spatio-temporal world as but a lesser state of existence. Then is the other part, which is reason and dialectics are access in the garden of reality, shavings of semi-potential suffering. So what does this mean exactly? This basically means that Hell is putting reason and dialectics, former parts of the framework of classical logic, as but subsets of an actual way bigger reality. Now comes the last part, and I would say it is the most interesting one. The final part of the book basically says, Lucifer, my love, I shall give to you all the agonies that can exist and many that cannot. Now, what does this mean? So far, we have understood that logic, our sense of logic, everything we have done, every conceptualization, every framework to hell, it's just a performance. We have understood this pretty much, at least from my way of explaining things. But what does this part mean? And where does the cosmology actually scale to? Well, let me help you understand that, alright? So now that we understand the nature of space in hell and the meaning of the book, why don't we already answer the question, where does ULTRAKILL'S cosmology scale to? So we'll start by saying that space in hell, as I have confirmed already, isn't three-dimensional, but if it's not three-dimensional, where does it scale to? So let's go back in time to the first scans that I showed of Hakida's statements regarding space in hell, alright? So firstly, within one of Hakida's many statements regarding the nature of space in hell, Hakida mentions that spaces don't occupy any specific place, and any traversal to them results in them having no consistency at all. So because within hell spaces don't occupy any specific place, this would invalidate things such as three-dimensional space, higher dimensional space, any coordinate-based geometry. Basically, if something does not occupy a place, it can be considered non-spatial. This is because within physics and mathematics, the dimension of a mathematical space is informally defined as the minimum number of coordinates needed to specify any point within it. The point that I am trying to make here is that if spaces don't occupy any specific place, then three-dimensional, higher dimensional, or whatever coordinate-based geometry all come to be invalidated because all dimensional frameworks require fixated or referent points. For example, origins, axis, or whatever measurable position exists to define where that something would be. And without any place, there aren't coordinates, there are no axes, no distances, and therefore no dimensions, making the space truly non-spatial rather than just a weird space or just higher dimensional. Then would be the other thing, which is traversal has no consistency. Now, what does this mean? As we know, movement requires distance, position, and continuity. So if traversal here has no rules or no consistency, this place would not operate within a geometric structure. Neither would it be non-Euclidean, because as we know, non-Euclidean still requires distance, so this would basically mean that X space would be non-dimensional. Now we go with the other statement, whereas Hakida says that things are in multiple places at the same time without consistency. Now what does this mean? Basically, this would be a multi-positional contradiction, which is pretty much impossible in three-dimensional, four-dimensional, whatever, and dimensional geometry exists, which would be only possible in rather conceptual or non-located metaphysical realms. Why is this a multi-positional contradiction? The law of non-contradiction states that something can't be true and false at the same time and in the same sense. So Hakira isn't saying that the object appears to be in two places or the object's quantum state is spread out. He's saying that it is in multiple places at the same time, which is a multi-positional contradiction, which is a direct violation of the law of non-contradiction. The point that I am trying to make here is that that statement being a multi-positional contradiction, which is impossible within three-dimensional, four-dimensional, whatever and dimensional space exists is because within all spatial frameworks, Euclidean, non-Euclidean, Riemannian, topological, all of these rely within the law of non-contradiction in order to define position as unique, which is the only way this statement can be true is if the space operates outside of classical logic entirely, which means hell isn't just higher dimensional, but it is rather non-dimensional. Now, there comes the other statement, which would be gluttony is inside Minos, but also not inside Minos, referring to the corpse of King Minos. Now, this is obviously a contradictory spatial state because space does not function correctly within hell. So, if location is not real, then dimensionality would not be real, which is the exact logic used to, for example, classify the meta-realities that occur within SCPs or Persona's Velvet Room, and so and so. We understand the nature of Hell's spatial framework now, but how can Hell possibly be universal? Sure, we know that it is unbound by dimensionality, but that doesn't mean it is outer, because to know is to understand that universal means having qualitative superiority over something, or exceeding material composition, or viewing lower states of existence as lower enough as to make them vanquish into absolutely nothing. So how does ULTRAKILL meet these requirements? Well, we can finally talk about where does the book, the circuit book, where does it actually scale to? So we can finally answer the question that I have been waiting for. Can ULTRAKILL be universal or more? We'll first go with the first part, which would be the spatiotemporal mind can conceptualize reality only in binary, yes and no, is and is not. Now, this statement alone doesn't actually get you to a certain tier within the Turing system, but rather establishes that whatever hell it is, it operates outside of the standard logical framework that governs dimensional existence. So we'll go with the other part, which would be the eye of Logos sees only a colorless existence in a monopotential world. Its abstractions are arrayed of shapeless ones and zeros rearranged ad nihilum. Now, within this part, Hell pretty much views the three-dimensional world as but ones and zeros rearranged into nothing. Why would this be universal? Well, if we go into the reality fiction page within Versatile Wiki, we will find that viewing a certain world as any form of fiction will grant you this tier. And if you go into the qualifiers, you will see that, for example, viewing a world as certain data, example simulation or a video game, would still get you into the qualifier for having reality fiction transcendence. Now here, Hell sees the world and its ideas, not just the three-dimensional world, but our ideas, aka all the conceptions we've had, as but ones and zeros rearranged ad nihilum, aka Hell sees the world as but code. So this already indicates the existence of Hell possessing reality fiction transcendence, which, as I have said, is pretty much universal. Now is the other part. Phaedonic dialogues, simple shadows on a cave wall. Now this here is the most evident proof for reality fiction transcendence within the book, because this uses the analogy of the cave, which would be that physical reality, including all dimensions, all space, all time, is but a cave, mere shadows. Yet Hell here would be the outside of the cave, or the true reality, or one of the true realities, which is baseline out universal, because this establishes qualitative superiority over the entire physical/dimensional framework. The point that I am attempting to make here is that I am trying to prove the very fact that reality fiction transcendence is something that Hell uses within the book. For example, Hell viewing the world as abstractions/ideas, viewing the world as but code, or using the cave analogy, which in itself proves a reality fiction transcendence, which only, proves the universal scaling within the book. So there's that. Now we go into the other part, which would be no. There are 39 states of existence: post-finity, metatemporality, and extra-causality. However, what is a plane of existence? A plane of existence is conceived as a subtle state, level, or region of reality. Each plane corresponds to some kind or category of being. As you know, we have already defined the three states of existence so far mentioned by Hell, which would be metatemporality, being beyond the progression of past, present, and future, actual causality, just being beyond cause and effect, and finally, post-finity. Now, post-finity, in simple terms, can be defined as the first number fully transcendent over all transfinite numbers. But what is exactly a transfinite number?
Now, transfinite numbers are basically numbers that are infinite in the sense that they are larger than any finite numbers. These include the transfinite cardinals, which are pretty much cardinal numbers used to quantify the size of infinite sets, and the transfinite ordinals, which are ordinal numbers used to provide an ordering on infinite sets.
So pretty much post-finity is absolutely beyond the union of whatever transfinite, inaccessible, absolute, immaterial, non-existential, or total number. That is what I am trying to say. So where does post-finity actually scale to? Before any of you call me crazy, let me explain myself, alright? The definition of high universal pretty much says that it is not just being above a hierarchy, it is transcending the entire framework that hierarchy operates within. Post-finity is pretty much defined as being above all transfinite numbers, aka the entire cardinal hierarchy. That system that we use to measure how big dimensional spaces are, it's pretty much made of transfinite numbers. And if you're above all of them, you're not just at the top of a dimensional stack, but you're outside of that system precisely. That is exactly what the definition calls transcending the framework entirely. So now that we finally understood the concept of post-finity, we can finally delve into the penultimate part of the book, which says that reason and dialectics are axes in the garden of reality, shapings of semi-potential sufferings. Now, where does this scale to, or does it scale anywhere? Now, this alone doesn't actually get you somewhere. This could perhaps give you the hacks of having transduality, I believe type 3, but this so far doesn't actually give you a fixated tier within the perceptual wiki tiering system. And finally, the part I really want to talk about, because this one can in fact put the burst absurdly higher. What is this part? It would be the last part of the book, which is Lucifer, my love, I shall give to you all the agonies that can exist and many that cannot. Now, what does that mean? What does all the agonies that can exist and many that cannot mean? So we understand that Hell's promise to Lucifer was to make him suffer all possible and impossible agonies. Now, do these agonies actually scale somewhere? Let us firstly define something real quick, and that would be extended modal realism. Now, extended modal realism, right, is a theory that concerns the question of what it means if something is possible or necessary. This theory treats with not just the fact that there are possible worlds, which exist as alternate versions of the actual world that we live in, but also impossible worlds, which are pretty much worlds that hold certain contradictions. For example, in one 2 plus 2 can be 5, or a triangle can be a circle. Those kinds of contradictions. Now, within the theory, we can understand that modality serves as a dimension similar to that of space and time, and in this sense, for example, like a tree or a cat aren't just extended within the space and continuum, but also across all possible and impossible worlds. But how does this apply to ULTRAKILL? So the first part, which is all agonies that can exist, covers pretty much every logical possible world, which in terms of Versatile Wiki is pretty much a state of affairs that obey the 3 laws of thought. By claiming authority over this, Hell pretty much demonstrates the capability to affect, actualize, or encompass the entire logical space of possible worlds. That alone goes for High Autoversal Plus Type 1, which only requires the power to influence all possible worlds. Then would be the other part, many that cannot. That part is key because this lets one understand that there are impossible worlds, which are pretty much states of affairs that violate one or more of the three lots of thoughts. So now we can answer very confidently that the cosmology of ULTRAKILL ranges from low complex multiversal, having a low end of the 8-3 book, to even autoversal levels, to then high autoversal levels, to now high autoversal plus, which is the closest thing that will have to being busted. So now guys, ULTRAKILL is pretty much ridiculously busted, at least from my point of view and how I scale things. If you have any issue with the overall scaling, let me know. This has been Mid-Chess Skills. I hope you have enjoyed this notoriously long video. See you, I don't know when, goodbye.